Welcome back to My First Stage. I am here with Miss Leisa Reid. She is the founder of Get Speaking Gigs Now, which is probably the most perfect title for a guest on this show. She's also the CEO of the International Speaker Network and has delivered over 600 talks, authored 9 books, and is here to help us understand how we can start getting speaking gigs now. So, Lisa, thanks so much for being here.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here with you.
I'm excited to have you, and I wanna jump right into it because your brand is Get Speaking Gigs Now.
That's right.
So, what's your secret? How do we do it?
What do we do? Well, it started back in 2013. I was hired by a company to get speaking gigs, literally, to drive clients into not drive them physically, but metaphorically drive clients into the business and take personal development workshops. And so that first year I booked 83 speaking engagements and
For yourself.
for myself. And then I delivered them. So not only booked them and delivered them. And
83.
83. I'll explain in just a minute. There's probably like, "Oh, that's now I have, like, a boatload of questions." And I brought in hundreds of clients to that organization, and then I would just rinse and repeat that every single year. Well, along the way, I started the network, which is now called the International Speaker Network. About 6 months in, I thought, "Gosh, this is really hard to do all by myself. I wanna, partner with other people. I wanna collaborate with other people. How do I do that? I will bring us all together." And so that really helped me create more referrals into speaking so that even though I would still get the same amount of speaking engagements each year, I'd usually do like 60, 70 a year. I wasn't having to cold call as much, which I find a soul-sucking activity for most entrepreneurs and especially speakers.
Yes.
So I was kinda like, "What can we do that's not as painful?" Like, we wanna be on the stage, but we don't really wanna do the, like, heavy lifting to get there. And so then people started asking me for help in the network. They were like, "How do you get booked so often? What are you doing?" And I thought, "Oh, it's not that hard. I don't know. It's not that big of a deal. I don't know what I'm doing." And I mean, I knew what I was doing, but I didn't really think I would wasn't really prepared to teach other people how to do it until one day, finally, like the 77th person asked for help. I thought, okay, I need to change my attitude and mindset around this. And I went home and I bought the URL, Get Speaking Gigs Now. And I started writing down, well, what is it that I do? And I started cataloging it. Then I started teaching it. Then I started getting clients with it. And so that's the headline. And now we can dive into the nitty gritty.
Yeah, it's funny because that's basically how I came up with the show, because I was always getting asked, "How do I get on stages? How do I get booked as on bigger stages, new stages?" And I was like, "I can tell you how I've done it, but I don't have all the answers. I'm just gonna crowdsource and bring on other people to give those answers." So, definitely, very similar way to develop kind of a brand. So, what was it? What are those secrets?
Well, for me, and I wanna delineate something just because I know a lot of your audience may be thinking, "Oh my gosh, their first question is usually, are those paid gigs or are those not paid whatever." So I wanna just address the elephant in the room. Getting paid speaking gigs was not my intention initially because I was there to get clients, which in my world generates a lot more money than the paid speaking gigs. So it's a different strategy, not for everybody,
Yeah.
but certainly it's a strategy that works really well for me and I really enjoy it. So there's different strategies for different depending on what game you're playing. Um, but the first thing I say to people when they ask me, "How do you get speaking gigs?" I'm like, I'll say, "Well, what's your talk?" And if they hesitate, if they're not sure, then I'm like, "Well, that's your first step. You need to put your stake in the ground and say, like, I call it get your talk ready to rock. I love rock music and I love music. And so I just say, like, it's just easy. It rhymes. But I think you have to decide what's your, call to action, what's your description, what's your learning points, what's your title, and make that claim and then you have something to bring to the table because it's really difficult to be a speaker if you don't already have that ready. It's like, I wanna play baseball, but I don't have cleats and I don't know how to throw a ball and I don't know how to go up to bat. How would you play baseball then? So that
Yeah,
would be step number 1. And wait, I
and
can keep going, but yeah, I didn't wanna give you
oh, sorry.
say something.
I so you say, like, have your talk ready. So are you when you said you did 83, I think it was, talks in a year.
The
Was that the same talk
It
that you
was,
gave, like,
it was
over and over again?
yes, yes.
Okay.
I know. So in my world, if you're speaking to get clients, you're meeting different people all the time. It doesn't matter if you say the same thing over and over again. And it wasn't memorized necessarily. There was a structure to it, but I didn't say the exact same words every single time. I gave the exact same points and experience. It was an experiential learning talk. And I had the same offer. I only had one offer at that time to give, so that was it. And so it makes your life a lot easier than having to develop. I think sometimes people think they're always having to develop content, which can take an enormous amount of time. Now, if a corporation is hiring you for a specific thing, yeah, you might need to develop specific content for that event that they're paying you for. But when you are speaking in order to generate clients and you're not negotiating with a corporation about what they want, you've had a conversation with the meeting planner, what would be appropriate for the audience, but it's a really different strategy.
Yeah, and then are these like these 83 talks in 1 year, you said you're doing like 60 a year. Are these conferences? Or these private events? Like, what type of, like, venue, I guess? Like,
Yeah.
what kind of event?
Yeah, all different. It depends on the person. So when I work with people in my speakers training academy, what we do is we customize. It depends on the person. It depends on what they want, what's their business, what kind of clients are they serving, where do they live? Do they want to travel? Do they not want to travel? Are they comfortable with tech and speaking virtually or not? Are their clients at corporate events? Are they at conferences? Are they at associations? Are they local? So all these things need to go into the filter before you decide like, "Well, I just want to be a speaker." It's like, "Okay, well, who needs to hear your message and where are they hanging out?" When I first started speaking, I was speaking about personal development. So in that sense, it was what I call industry agnostic. Like anybody
Mm.
could I could speak to an association of project managers or I could speak to realtors. I could speak to entrepreneurs, chambers, um, business women, businessmen, all different kinds of shapes and sizes of people. But my one parameter was that they were going to be coming to a physical location to take this workshop. So I would have like about a 50-mile radius where I was. So as long as the event was in the 50-mile radius, we were good.
So you get that many stages that close to home.
Oh, yeah. Well, so this is where again, it depends. It depends on where you live,
Yeah.
right? So I live in Orange County, California,
Okay.
and I discovered a way to so one of the things about me is that I don't like to waste time. I like to do things like shortest distance between what is it? This between 2 points, A and B. I wanted
It's a straight line.
Yeah, there we go. I wanted to figure out how could I get there quickly. So what I would do is I would find an association, usually would get a referral of an association of some kind, and I would typically get referred to the Orange County chapter. Well, where I live, there is 3 other counties within an hour away. There's LA, there's San Diego, and there's Inland Empire, which is not as popular as the other 2. I don't know why, but it's a really big county. And so I would immediately turn one association gig into 4. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, there we go. So sometimes people aren't thinking smart. They're working hard, not working smart. And so then that same association, maybe they have a regional event and maybe they have a statewide event that's still like within, they often have events in Orange County, California, or San Diego, Los Angeles. So it depends on where I live. So that worked for where I lived. And now this is back in 2013. We weren't doing Zoom presentations or Zoom talks at that time. So it was definitely boots on the ground.
We have to have our talk, and you say to have that one basically, like, signature talk, it
I
sounds
would
like.
recommend that to start, yeah. I think a lot of times people think, "Well, I have to have 3." I'm like, "Well, if you've never had 1, like, if you haven't even done it yet, how can you have 3?" You have to start
Yeah.
with 1 at least, and then do that a bunch of times. Like, in your first 100 talks, you are gonna learn so much. Things are gonna go wrong, technology is gonna fail. I know one of your times you were about to go on stage and the person before you said exactly what you were gonna say, so you're like, "Okay, I gotta change that up in the mo" did not anticipate that happening. When you speak enough, things go wrong, so you
Yeah.
learn a lot just by doing. And then you
Yeah.
start to go, "Oh, yeah, I have another talk here. Now I'm ready to develop." But if you start with 3 at a time and you haven't even done it yet, that's 3 different slide decks. That's 3 different ways to practice. It's a lot to manage when you haven't actually done it yet.
I feel like I've been doing this wrong this whole time now, 'cause like, the way I do it, like, I have a like, I'm a member of a platform that gives you, like, a whole list of basically a spreadsheet of every event looking for speakers, and I will find an event that I'm like, "Oh, that's cool, I'd go to that," and then I would like, make a talk that would fit it,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I have a Google Doc that's, like, 60 pages long,
Yeah.
where I just, like, keep a record of, like, all of these talks that I've put together, and I'm like, "Huh, that's a lot of work that I've been doing."
Yeah, so
That
what I used to do the topic that I would speak on is called creating a winning mindset. So sometimes I would
Mhm.
say, like, if I'm going to a realtor event, I would say creating a winning mindset for realtors, or creating a winning mindset for business owners, or creating a winning mindset for blah, 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 right? Engineers. And then I would put that filter over that talk. Like I would use examples if I'm speaking to realtors, when you're out getting listings, when you're out getting buyers, et cetera. I would use the verbiage for that industry within the talk. So I wasn't changing the bulk of it, but I would do the nuances or change how I showed up versus how I show up in front of a group of realtors is really different than how I show up in front of a nonprofit organization, right? And so read the room and things like that.
Yeah, I think that's a little more the way that I do, like, my ebooks, like, I have ebooks that are why every author needs a podcast, why every real estate
There you
agent
go.
needs a
Yeah,
podcast,
you're
why
doing
every
it.
financial advisor needs a podcast, and that is a whole lot easier to just kind of tweak those details than starting from scratch. I really should be doing that with my speaking.
Yeah, and you
So,
can even
I'm just gonna go redo my entire strategy now.
well, you probably have like segments like learning points that you could shuffle around now that you've got your content developed. It is difficult when you're just starting because you're like, what content is going to land? What's really valuable for the audience, and what do I really enjoy? So there's a learning curve to it. I think sometimes people think it's got to be perfect, but there's something beautiful about going through the experience and actually learning as you go and evolving and perfecting.
What is, like, the worst things have gone? Like,
Oh my gosh.
that day like, what day that, like, everything that could have gone wrong went wrong?
One time, I mean, the one that comes to mind right now, I it was a San Diego event, so I drove there, got there early. I always like to get to the event or before anybody else, to be honest. I don't want to be there unpacking my stuff. I wanna already be ready to go and deliver, to greet people. So, I got to the event and the coordinator sets up her projector, and I can only imagine that maybe she was doing this big event and maybe had never done a big event before. So I didn't know that. And her projector was like what you would use for the kids to put like a movie on the screen. But this was a huge conference room. You couldn't see it was so, it just was a low quality projector because it wasn't for professional use. And I realized in that moment there are no slides available. It's not going to happen. But I did have I did have an easel and markers, which and a, big pad. So I just did like old school slide projector. I was like, I will just write out whatever I need on the easel to involve the audience visually. And so I just made up my slides on my easel right then and there.
That is you just happen to have an easel.
Well, I used to use one all the time, and I actually yeah, so yes. I used to carry it in my car all the time because I would do a very interactive presentation. Before I even use PowerPoint slides, I would use an easel and markers, and I would do this experiential thing. This was back a long time ago. I don't do this anymore, but what's nice about not having to rely on slides is that you can give a presentation anywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, what if the slide projector breaks, isn't available, which has happened to me, bulb goes out, like, technically just doesn't work, not my equipment, I get there, and you gotta be ready to go.
I always travel with my own, like, clicker
Yep,
for my slides because I always, like the one that they have never works.
and
It's like
batteries.
a rule with yes, backup
Batteries and
batteries,
clicker, yes.
but it's like a rule that the one they have is just not going to work, but I've been to events where they don't even have one, so suddenly the entire event is using mine, and I think I've had to lend other people my computer
Mhm.
because their slides were on their phone,
Yeah. Oh
instead
my
of
gosh.
actually having them on a computer, and now I'm gonna have to just start packing, like, a dry erase board.
Well, the reality is I don't travel with with an easel anymore or dry erase board, but what I always tell people is you just wanna be prepared for what is gonna get in the way of you giving a great talk. And
Mhm.
if you practice correctly, it won't matter if you don't have your slides. But if it's an in-person event and the slide projector, the projector, I'm so old, but, you know what I mean. If the projector doesn't, work or something doesn't work, you need to have handouts to make sure that they have whatever QR code or whatever that thing is that you want them to take the next step, because if you were relying on that for your slides, you now just left with nothing, potentially.
That's a really good point. Are there a few things I think you had said that, like, your first speaking gig, you didn't have slides, you didn't have a book, you didn't really have anything.
Yeah.
What are the things now that you always make sure that you do have?
Oh, well, even back then, it's always make sure you have a way to make the sales or generate clients or whatever that is. Again, this is different conversation if you're keynoting, that's not gonna be appropriate necessarily, so you have to make sure you're in alignment with whatever event you're doing. But for me, I speak with audiences who, typically, like, women audiences, although I do serve men as well, but, whether it's business owners or entrepreneurs are my typical audience. So it's okay for me to give an offer. It's okay for me to, say give a freebie, something out that they would want to participate in. So I would say you just need to know your presentation inside and out. And I don't mean memorize. I don't mean read from anything. I just mean you need to know it in your bones. And I don't know if you ever saw the commercial because I think we have a little difference in age, but there was a commercial, about Tootsie Pops, and it was the owl, and this little kid says, "How many licks does it take to get to the
Like,
middle
to get
of
to
the
the
Tootsie
center of the
Pop?"
Tootsie Pop.
And he's like, "1, 2, 3," and he just bites into it. But it's an unanswerable question. So that's like
Yeah.
people say, "Well, how often do I need to practice? How many times?" I'm like, "I don't know, till you know it, till it's in your bones so that if the lights go out and there's a bees are loose in the building and there's a train going by, you could like these have all happened to me, then you could still give your presentation without hesitation."
I think it was Scott Carson was on one of the early episodes, and he had to give a whole presentation in a blackout because they just lost power. But I wanna hear about the bees.
Well, I s bees can, get inside sometimes, and so that could cause some alarm, some havoc. There was actually I have a better story than the bee story. I was giving a virtual presentation, it was during, the COVID time, and or I guess it was I don't remember what year it was, but people were doing still zooming in, and it was like a hybrid presentation. So I was giving a presentation in, somewhere in Texas, but I'm in California. And at one point, they're at a restaurant, and at one point, they just politely say to me, excuse me, Lisa, we everything's fine, but we did just get a tornado warning, so we might have to go and, you know, w secure be in a different secured area, the entire restaurant, but we can't leave because 'cause we're in front of a bunch of glass windows." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh." And I said, "Do you guys want me to keep going?" And they're like, "Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah." And I'm like, "Are you serious? You're" I don't know if I would wanna keep listening if I was under a tornado watch, but they did.
Not to say that, your content wasn't important, but is
Right,
it
right,
important enough?
I know, I'm like, "Are you guys safe? Because that's a concern for me." Anyway, that was an interesting one.
That's so crazy. I've done, like, podcasts where my whole all my power goes out in the middle of recordings. I haven't had anything like that happen in person. I've had, like, the slides don't work, the clicker doesn't work, but I have to have an actual emergency. I think I did have fire alarms.
That could happen.
One of my conferences, fire alarms were going off every, like, 20 minutes.
Oh, yeah,
That was fun.
yes. Yeah, so but you learn as those things happen, you learn, and so just encouraging everyone to give themselves grace, and part of like, "Oh, well, that wasn't something I expected, but I was able to navigate and move on, and the show must go on."
I'm curious, like, because you get speaking gigs, like, basically in bulk. Like, it seems like you kinda buy your speaking gigs at Costco, which is awesome. Um,
Okay.
are there, like, any, like, specific types of organizations that are the best to reach out to? Like, what's maybe, like, an easy starting place
Well,
for
I
somebody?
think there's a myth that there's this perfect list out there, this
Mm.
magical unicorn list that you can get and they'll pay you, they'll just throw money at you and you can be a paid speaker when you find this magical list in Never Never Land. And that is not true. At least not from anyone that I have heard. Yes, there are lists. But again, we go back to the soul sucking activity. So, what I do is instead, I encourage people to be really clear on who their ideal audience is because you don't want a speaking engagement. You want a speaking engagement with the right type of audience that could potentially come and work with you. At least that's what the people that I work with want. And so what we do is we figure out, okay, what's your speaking audience like avatar look like? And again, this is where we decide, is this local? Like, do you live in the middle of nowhere where there's nothing happening? Well, then we're probably going to need to branch out. But local is always a good place to start. Like if I lived in Chicago and I'm pretending to be one of my clients right now. So I live in Chicago and I speak to people who need senior services. Not the seniors themselves, but like their parents are aging, maybe other people who work with that same population, estate planning attorneys, maybe CPAs, maybe construction who's helping, rehab the house so that, people can stay in their home, etcetera, organizations that serve that type of community. So what I would do is even though I'm in Chicago, which is a really big area and I could travel, I'm gonna get the lay of the land in Chicago. I'm like, okay, I want to know what's happening in my backyard. And this is what I call finding treasure in your own backyard. A lot of times people don't even realize there's stuff happening in their own backyard. So what are the associations in Chicago? What are the senior services associations? What are the estate planning associations? What are all the different things? And then I would map out, like, this is just what I would do. I would map out, like, when are they? When do they meet every month? Do they have an event that's once a quarter, the regional event? Like, what's the lay of the land? And I think a lot of times people just are looking for the speaking engagement. I'm like, well, get the lay of the land of your own backyard first. Then you can start to decide, okay, here's what I'm looking for. Because what happens is that, say you find this magical association that wants to have you as a speaker frequently. Well, they're not going to have you there every single month. So now what you have is you have a referral for one of your speaker buddies. And then they are probably going to have a referral for you and so on and so forth. So if we think of it that way, instead of just finding one, finding one, finding one, you got to look at the whole picture, not just the onesie twosie.
Yeah, one of my episodes actually was all about referrals and how, like, to use referrals, to grow your speaker
So easy.
gigs too, so, no, I love that that's, something that you do. Is there any, like, step that you can think of that people just always miss when it comes to, like, booking gigs, finding gigs, giving their presentations?
I think there's a lot of noise in the world. Like I get requests on LinkedIn and events that aren't necessarily a fit for me, events that are people are putting together as just like a cash grab type of a thing. So it's the discernment of like what's real, what's not real, what's really a good use of my time and energy, because it's still your time and energy no matter how you slice and dice it. You only have so much time in the world. So creating a speaker network, which we have at the International Speaker Network, it's like creating trusted people around you so that you can have someone to go like, "Hey, have you heard of this organization? What was your experience like?" When I give a referral, I don't refer unless I've already spoken there before because I don't know yet. I wanna, like, be the first one to say, like, "Okay, yeah, don't do this one," or, "Yes, this was amazing. Let me connect you." Because that's my reputation on the line as well. So, sometimes people just don't think beyond that first one, or they think any speaking engagement is gonna be a good speaking engagement. I'm like, "No, no, no, that's like dating and every person you go on a date with is a good person." No, no, not necessarily, you know?
Especially not if you're on online dating, because
No,
there's
all right.
definitely gonna be some serial killers in there.
Yeah, or just creepy people who aren't real. So you don't wanna get catfished. That's a good way of saying it. Don't get
Ooh, don't
catfished.
get catfished. Have you been catfished by an event?
Um,
I have.
yeah, in this I usually my catfish radar is pretty strong.
Yeah.
But certainly the first time it happens is when you're like, "Oh, like, "Oh, we wanna give you this award," or whatever, or "We wanna" and you're like, "Huh, okay, let me take a look," and so I do a little research, I'm like, "No." But now I just delete it right away, but at first I'm like, "What is this?" So, yeah. Flattery can be very tricky.
True. I think I may have talked about this on the show, but I was kind of like catfished by an event. I was speaking at a real estate conference, and I'd even like I basically had a referral because I know somebody who had spoken at it, and, even he was confused after I told him what happened because he's like, "That is not what I remember at all."
No.
I had put together an entire presentation on using podcasting for real estate agents, and I could speak to real estate agents all day about podcasting. I have specific strategies for them. I have, like, all of these things. I can do it off the top of my head, no problem. But I had my presentation all set and ready to go, and then they put me in a room full of, uh, PhD candidates that
Mhm.
are researching and trying to get their doctorate degrees in real estate.
That sounds like a nightmare.
I didn't know that was an option.
Yeah, that
Like,
seems really weird.
and good for y'all, I hope you get it, but I'm not really gonna be helpful here. And so I just have to give my whole presentation, and it's also, like, the people that were going before and after me, their slides were basically like Word documents. Mine are pink and pretty as is everything that I do, and I'm just like, "I don't belong here. This is uncomfortable." I cried for, like, 3 hours
Aw.
after, and I'm just like, I feel like I look so dumb because this isn't these people have no interest in anything I'm talking about. Let me just get through it and call it a day.
Yeah, it's really
So
a matchmaking thing, and I think sometimes
yeah,
like, if I remember when I was single and someone would say, "Oh, I know someone who's single," I'm like, "Listen, that is not my only requirement." I mean, it is a requirement, but there's a lot of other things that fall around.
the bar is set a little higher.
And so don't just hook me up with somebody because I'm single and they're single. But it's the same with speaking, like, not every speaking engagement is for each speaker. So when someone's like, "Well, what speaking referrals do you have?" I'm like, "Well, I need to know you first. I need to know, like, what your deal is." And I also don't wanna put you in a situation that you're like, "Oh, well, I don't wanna get up that early in the morning," or "I don't wanna travel to this place," or whatever, or "This isn't my ideal audience." I don't wanna set you up for failure either. So I'm very selective about who I match and why.
Yeah, and you had kinda touched on, like, getting paid to speak versus not getting paid to speak. I feel like the one that doesn't get talked about as often is paying to speak.
Yeah, pay to play, yeah.
Yeah,
There's lots of
how do you
different
feel about
stages to
that?
do that. Again, it's all about using your noodle. Like, if it's gonna make sense for your business, I've made tons of money doing a pay to play option, but it's not my favorite option, you know what I mean? So, I will do it if I know that absolutely the right people are in the room, if I have high trust in the person putting on the event and I know they're gonna fill the event, and I have a high likelihood of generating 5 figures and above out, from that event. But or I'm just like, "You know what? If it" I run it through the resentment filter. If nothing works here, it doesn't work out, I get 0 clients, how resentful am I gonna be? I'm not that resentful, it'll be fun, I'll get exposure, I'm good with it. But you gotta run through that yourself of, like and don't fall for the promises of from someone else if you're internally doubting. This is a mistake I see people make where they're like, "Oh, I get to be on stage with, this famous person and that famous." Well, you're not on stage with them, to be fair. They are probably speaking at the opening or the keynote or something, and you're just like a little, person in the background. But I mean, it's bragging rights. Sure, you can do that. If that's what you're paying for, then know what you're paying for because that person who's the head keynoter, they know how to sell from stage and they're probably going to scoop everybody up. So just don't think that, like, oh, if I pay this big amount, I'm guaranteed this many clients. You're not. If you have a track record and you know how to sell from stage and you've done a really great job of it, then you can discern if that's gonna be a good strategy for you. If you're just getting started there, I honestly say no business paying to play. 0 business paying to play.
Yeah. Actually, I just got I had reached out to an event about speaking, and they came back with, like, "This is a great fit for our sponsored tracks,"
Sure.
and I'm like,
Yeah,
probably not."
you gotta decide if yeah, it's like you gotta decide. It could be, but it might this is where you gotta run it through your own business
Yeah.
filter and yeah.
Yeah, I think we also, like, underestimate the cost that goes along, like, you did it in a way that everything's within 50 miles, like, you can drive in for the event and drive home, and it's not a huge deal, but even, like, I've taken, like, paid speaking opportunities that cover my flights, and I still have the entire day, I have the food, maybe the hotel, and there's still other costs there.
Yeah.
So I've
And your time, and then you gotta get
yeah,
home and you're so that's why I say paid speaking versus not paid speaking, um, I it's easier to get speaking engagements that don't offer a fee. It's easier to get booked. You get booked quicker. There's not as much competition and you make money. You make right off the like if you get clients, you make money. So usually people will come to me and they'll say like, "Oh, I'm tired of speaking for free." And I'm like, "Okay, there's a hole in the boat there. You've been speaking for free, but you haven't been getting clients. So something's wrong. Something's wrong with your system." And getting paid isn't always what it's cracked up to be either. Like you're saying, it's like, well, you might get paid in the beginning a couple $1,000s, $2,500 something, but does that compensate you for the time and effort that you put out?
Yeah. Is there something that's, like, the number one thing you see wrong with those systems when the people are, speaking and getting nothing?
Yeah, they usually think that they're falling under the trap of like, I've got to get my name out there. I've got to pay my dues. That is neither of those are business strategies.
Mhm.
That's just a false like, I'm not ready yet, or it's a way to like block yourselves from bringing in clients and making money. The reality is, if you're in business for yourself, if you're an entrepreneur, you're in the sales business. And people often don't want to admit that, but that is true. And I've had clients who are attorneys, doctors who guess what they don't teach in medical school or law school is sales and marketing. So they got this brilliance to share, and then we gotta like, oh, we gotta package this up so that you can attract clients now. Just being a doctor or a lawyer isn't gonna cut it anymore. You've got to actually have a good strategy.
Yeah. That's the hardest part. Even if you do know, like, I came from a marketing background, and I can do marketing for my clients all day, but doing it for yourself is different.
It is, and
It
it's weird
feels
how, like, those
different.
little things will switch in our mind. I have a gal who reached out to me on LinkedIn yesterday. She's like, she's a seven-figure business owner, and she's like, "But I did that for somebody else. Like, I built a company, it was around building something else. Now I gotta build for myself." It's a different feeling, even though she's had great success. It's a different feeling.
It really is, like, it's you love to brag on your clients and the people that you're doing it for, but then it comes to yourself and it's like, "I'm decent at this."
Yeah, you're like, "I think I'm
Um,
okay."
if you have no one else, like, you could pick me.
Yeah.
I'll be your last resort option, like,
I call
maybe
it
it's
brilliance hoarding.
ooh, I like that.
Yeah,
I like
we're
that.
like, "Oh, I don't kind of have all this brilliance. I'm just gonna sit on it in case, maybe someone will wanna hear it someday." What?
Eh, if it's meant to be, they'll just find
Yeah,
me.
they'll find me. I'll just get visible and I'll get my name out there. No. No, 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 no.
What is, like, a quick, easy way to get that visibility? You think people need?
Well, it's about, like I said, getting the talk created so that you have that stake in the ground. Like, okay, once it creates such confidence when you have that ready, you're like, oh, yeah, everyone needs to hear that. So when I do a session with people, they're like, oh, I can't wait to share this now. Now we're moving from like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I want to talk about to everyone needs to know this. Like, this is so important. And so we want to have that energy. And what magically happens, I can't, scientifically prove this, but what magically happens is when we're ready, all of a sudden we get opportunities. People out of nowhere are like, "Hey, could you speak for our group?" Or you might put something out on social saying like, "Oh, in case you didn't know, I'm a speaker now and this is what I speak on." "What? I didn't know you were a speaker." Like oftentimes our own family doesn't even know what we're doing as entrepreneurs. They're like, "What are you doing back there?" "Oh, you wrote a book? Oh, you have a course? You have a podcast? You're a speaker? I didn't know that." Like your own family could be referral sources if they knew what you were doing, right? It's just funny.
I the amount of times that someone has had to hand me a phone because the person on the phone asked them what I do, and
Yeah,
they're
they're like,
like, "I don't know how to answer that. Can you tell them what you do?"
you're like Chandler
I'm
on
like,
Friends.
"Yes, he's a transponster." And I just lost my apartment.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
what is your last, this is my top tip for people to get booked now. What
Well,
is that last tip?
yeah, I will say, I have, more tips I can share. So, in case you didn't get any of the tips or you want more tips, go to getspeakinggigsnow.com/tips and you'll get my 5 top tips to get more speaking gigs now. So just kind of an aside. So that's getspeakinggigsnow.com/tips. I think it's gonna be in the notes as well. Um, but I would say besides having your talk created and creating your ideal audience, you also want to monetize, get a monetization plan. Like, how are you going to monetize it? Whether some of that monetization plan might be paid speaking, it might be, well, how, what do I charge my clients? How much is that? Okay, where could I go that I think my future clients are going to be hanging out, and start looking. Just do a quick search. I mean, when I started, we didn't have ChatGPT where it's just all lined up and tells you every single answer you need to know. I'd actually go search for it. So it's so easy. Just put a little note in there like what is it associations in your area you want to check? You can do a search for call for speakers. Just do a little research. Not too long, set a timer, 20 minutes, don't bore yourself to death, but that'll give you a lot of answers.
With with that monetization plan, is there any rule of thumb for price point? Like, if you're gonna try to sell from the stage, should you stick to, like, a small intro offer that's, like, 199, or is it okay to go in with the, like, "This is my $10,000 package?" Like, what or does it depend on the
It
audience?
depends on a lot of things. It depends
Yeah.
on a lot of things. So, typically, if you have a half hour to an hour talk, typically, I would say you're probably better off like, I work with a lot of coaches and people service
Mhm.
providers, so I would say a call is probably more likely for you to talk about what that program or is this person a fit for your program. That's gonna glean you a lot more value than the 197 that I would say, "Oh, I've all sold all the 7s, the 97, the 197, 297, 397, blah, blah, blah." So it depends. I think a lot of people get stuck in that, and then people think, "Oh, I paid 197, my problems are solved," and they don't go and do the thing, they don't go to the course, they don't do the whatever. It's more transformational if I can have a conversation with somebody and then really dig into, like, what is the issue that they have. If I can't help them, I'll refer them somewhere else, but then at least I know, okay, we're actually gonna do something if they work with me, like in the Speakers Training Academy or Get Their Talk Ready Rock or something like that. We're gonna actually do something to help elevate your message and get you further along. That's gonna be way more valuable.
So instead of having, like, a specific offer, it's just, like, book a call with me to
That
talk
could
through?
be that could be your speaker, what your call to action. It could be a phone call. It could be a quiz. It could be a freebie. It could be like it's again, this is where it gets really it depends on the person.
Yeah.
I know that if you need to be comfortable with whatever you're offering from stage because if you're not, you will not do it.
Mhm.
So, I would say, like, you wanna be so in love with your offer, you wanna marry it. And if you're not ready to marry it, then no one else is gonna marry it either.
There's been a lot of, like, dating references, I like it.
We gotta keep it fun and interesting, right?
Gotta keep it on theme, yes.
Right.
Um, so is there anywhere that people can find you, learn more about you, how to work with you, all that fun stuff?
Yeah, you can go to getspeakinggigsnow.com, and there's lots of options there, but if you want the tips, just add that slash tips at the end. You'll get direct access to some tips and other goodies that, will be coming your way.
Awesome, I love it. Well, thank you so much for being here. This was a lot of fun, and I'm gonna go redo my whole speaking
Ah!
strategy now.
All right. Take care.
You too. I'll talk to y'all soon, and everyone, thank you so much for listening. Hit subscribe, and we'll be back next week.